The lecture hall's holographic displays flickered through quantum entanglement diagrams as Professor John Chen outlined the theoretical framework for faster-than-light communication. Aliana sat in the third row, arms crossed, her neural interface band dark and inactive while every other student's pulsed with soft blue light record. Processing, cataloging. Miss Corvash, John said, pausing mid. I notice you're not taking notes. The room went silent. 47 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Aliana looked up, her expression unreadable. Because you're teaching my debrief reports, Professor. John's stylus froze against the haptic whiteboard. Excuse me, Section 7.3 of your lecture, Quantum Coherence Across Relativistic Distances. That's from my mission report filed with the Temporal Research Division. Earth Standard Date the 14th of September 2247. She tilted her head slightly. You're currently teaching it on 2243. 622. The classroom erupted in whispers. John felt the blood drain from his face. That's impossible, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. The TRD archives are classified. Level 9. Graduate students don't have. I'm not a graduate student. Aliana stood, and suddenly John noticed details he'd somehow overlooked. The way her clothes didn't quite match contemporary fashion. The subtle scarring on her hands consistent with radiation exposure. The way she held herself like someone who'd spent years in variable gravity. I'm Captain Aliana Corvash, Temporal Observer, currently on sabbatical assignment to complete the academic credentials I'll need for a position I haven't applied for yet. John's mind raced through the implications. Time travel existed only in theoretical models. Despite decades of research, the Corvash-Chen papers, his own work, wouldn't be published for another 3 years, and those were just mathematical frameworks, not practical applications. If you're from the future, a student called out. Prove it, Aliana sighed. I'm not supposed to, but since Professor Chen is currently building his lecture series around classified materials that won't be declassified until 2251, I think we're past the point of temporal protocol. She pulled up her sleeve, revealing a subcutaneous interface port that wouldn't be developed for another decade. This is a 7th-generation neural bridge. Current technology is on generation 3. John found his voice. How did I get access to your reports? You didn't, not yet. Aliana walked toward the front of the room, her movements precise, economical. In 2245, the TRD will recruit you as a consultant after your work on quantum consciousness transfer. You'll have full archive access. You'll spend 2 years analyzing mission data, including mine. And you'll develop the theoretical foundation that makes temporal observation possible. But that creates a paradox, John protested. If I'm teaching based on your reports, and you learn from my teaching, where does the original information come from? Nowhere. Everywhere. Aliana smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Welcome to temporal mechanics, Professor. Information doesn't need a point of origin when causality forms a closed loop. The question isn't where the knowledge comes from, it's why the universe allows stable loops to exist at all. John's hands trembled. Why are you here? Why? Tell me this. Because in the original timeline, the one I observed before I was sent back, you died. A laboratory accident in 2244 while trying to prove one of your theories. The university's safety committee cleared the experiment, but they didn't know what you were really testing. She met his eyes. I'm here to make sure you're cautious, to make sure you survive to do the work that sends me into the past to have this conversation. The weight of it pressed down on John. Another closed loop, more like a spiral, each iteration slightly different, but gravitating toward a stable configuration. Aliana pulled a small data crystal from her pocket, technology that wouldn't exist for 5 more years. This contains the safety protocols that will save your life. But there's a condition. What condition? You have to figure out how to develop them yourself. If I just give them to you, if you don't go through the intellectual process of discovering why they're necessary, you'll make different mistakes. Fatal ones. She placed the crystal on his desk. Consider this a study guide for an exam you don't know you're taking yet. John stared at the crystal, his mind reeling through temporal equations. How do you live with it? Knowing the future, unable to change most of it, the same way you live with knowing the past and being unable to change it. Aliana turned back to the class. Time isn't a river, Professor. It's a crystal lattice, rigid in some directions, flexible in others. We exist in the spaces between certainty and chaos. Will I see you again? You already have. 3 years ago, I was the visiting researcher who asked you that question about quantum decoherence at the symposium in Geneva. You told me I reminded you of someone, but you couldn't remember who. Her smile turned sad. I'll be that person you can't quite remember for 4 more years. Until the day you joined the TRD and accessed my mission files. She walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Professor, that equation you're about to erase from the board, the one you think is wrong. It's not. Trust your instinct. That's the breakthrough that starts everything. The door closed behind her. John looked at the equation, then at the crystal on his desk, then at 47 students who'd just had their understanding of causality shattered. He picked up his stylus and began to write. already somehow knowing that every symbol he traced was an echo of something that hadn't happened yet, and somehow always had dot in the empty hallway. Aliana checked her temporal marker. The divergence was minimal, 0.03% variance from baseline. John would be cautious now. He would live, he would do the work, and she would continue existing in the gaps between cause and effect, a ghost in her own timeline, forever teaching the professor who would teach her everything she knew. The crystal lattice held. For now,